This is Chad Lawson, our DevOps engineer at Rocketman, who's going to go over a really exciting topic that I've been excited about for a while, which is how to provide zero-touch guided access for the camera, microphone, and screen sharing setup. If you are kind of wondering what that means, Chad's going to tell you.
Thanks, Chris. I love the idea of this topic. I keep getting all the topics where it's like the topic itself sounds boring as snot. Let's see if I can bring some love into it. So this is kind of much the same thing. The concept of TCC, that control over what applications have the ability to access the parts of your system. So, whenever you see an application pop up and say, this app wants to access your address book or your contacts, that's part of the TCC settings. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm daring enough to just say what I believe it means. If anybody wants to put the acronym in the chat, it's something like transparency, consent, and control. Did I get that right? But it's the notion that Apple keeps us safe on this. And if you've ever set up one of those PPPC profiles, you can go ahead for most things. You can pre-allow applications to have the rights to that. The three that you cannot are camera, microphone, and screen sharing, the things that are needed for Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and other components. So this presentation is built around trying to do that. Now, before I go too much further, I want to say that every single time I have started working on this particular presentation, from the day I came up with the title, I have had Naughty by Nature's classic song "You Down with OPP" stuck in my head, and the more it was stuck in there, the more I thought, everybody in this team has got their little area of expertise, and I'm a lifelong fan of Weird Al Yankovic. Maybe I should come up with a parody honoring this and trying to bring this topic to life. So I started taking the time to put together a music video featuring our three dogs and having this entire 3-minute parody of Naughty by Nature's OPP, You Down with TCC. So this is going to be the world premiere of... Okay, I know he's not here. I'm getting a screaming message from Eric in my ear. Apparently the lawyers reviewed this and thinking that this might not be the right time with the fact that we record, and it sucked, he said. Okay, well, fine. Then I'm not going to bother with the I won't bother with the music video. We'll save that for a future note. But yeah, I've had this particular concept stuck in my head for a while. But as Chris pointed out, the thing that we wanted to be able to deal with, the reason this came up, yeah, exactly. And as Ross points out, I would probably be safe as far as it being a parody, but let's not push our luck in certain areas. But as Chris pointed out, the reason he was saying that he's been excited about this for a while, this is something we started. You're welcome, Mike. This is something we've been working on because when we had a client that everybody who's been around us for a while knows we love our zero-touch workflows. We love to be able to make it so that an employee can take a machine out of the box and right off the bat get it set up without us having to be involved and ready to go. And a client brought up a really good point that while all the applications, everything might be installed, this client Teams is an essential part of their daily workflow. And until camera, microphone, and screen sharing are enabled, it's somewhat hobbled. And how can we help improve that workflow? And being the stubborn pains in the butt that we are, we decided to make sure that we would make it so that we could make that as seamless out of the box as possible. So we started off with a very particular mission. We're going to, first of all, we have to find that plist file that contains all of this information on what apps are turned on, determine what the entry format is, and then edit that plist to just go ahead and give the app the permissions for the user. Yeah, this seems like a pretty straightforward mission. Let's dive right in. Right off the bat, in trying to find the plist, it didn't take long to realize It's not a plist. We get so used to Apple doing everything and defaults, read commands, plist, buddy, etc., that we forget that not everything is done in plist files. So, and this is not just one file that's not a plist. It's a SQLite database, but it's actually two. There's one at the computer domain of /library/application support and one at ~library at the user domain. Okay, fine. So it's SQLite files, but it may not be a plist file, but check. We're partway on through our mission. Next up, we need to determine how these files are put together and be able to get ready to be able to make changes and do what we want. So fortunately, SQLite is extremely well documented, and I won't call myself fluent in structured query language in SQL, but I know it better than I know my high school French. So I was able to start poking around at the database. Let's see what's in Access. This should at least be somewhat easy to read. Okay, it may not be readable, but this is just the first two lines, the header and the first row of data. But I can already see the word service. I already see the word client. I see auth value, and I can see how those map down to the next parts. Let's take a step back and kind of focus just a little bit first on what is considered a service in this. And this is again at the computer level /library. Other than the annoying fact that the redundant KTCC service at the beginning of every single one, certain things start to look familiar as they map out to stuff in system preferences, and most importantly is screen capture. Now, unlike with my next lookup, this is everything, all of the unique values within the /library system or file. There's no camera. There's no microphone. So let's go take a look at that other one. Let's see what's in the user level version of it, doing the exact same command there. Yeah, you can even see it just scrolls off the bottom of the page. We have several of them, and it does include our camera, and it does include our microphone. But none of the values that were in the computer level are in here, and none of the values that are in here are in the computer level. There is a partition, somewhat understandably, between the computer level and the user level. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Bruce. A structured query language, SQL. And I've heard other people correct me on how it's pronounced, but I don't care. Digging a little further, then I wanted to say, all right, well, what does it consider a client? So this is just a sample of what came up in mine, but it follows that reverse domain notation that we use for our config profiles, com.apple.automator, com.microsoft Teams, CC Arduino. So it's that format, but most importantly, the one I'm looking for is com.microsoft Teams for this particular application. So now I know what I'm looking for. Great. I know what I'm looking for. Now it's just a matter of making it happen. So all I have to do now is look up the SQL commands and update column, and I can give the permissions to this right ahead of time, right? I don't need to bother with all this. And no. I very quickly found out this is a no-touch file. In fact, it is protected by SIP, System Integrity Protection. I can't even as a root user, I cannot touch this file short of reading it without first booting into what is it, safe mode or whatever, booting over and disabling things I'm not about to do for my computer, let alone all the computers under my domain. Recovery, thank you. All right, so we'll scratch that off. If I can't make the changes to it, what other options do we have? If I can't set this for the user, and by the way, that was the problem we had in the first place, right? I mean, I should have known better, but I had to try, because if a config profile provided by an MDM, the exact structure that Apple gave us in the first place, can't give permissions to users ahead of time, or the applications ahead of time, what made me think I was going to be able to modify the file? But I had to try. So if we can't change it for them, what can we do? And Chris came across some really good ideas as we were brainstorming it. We had the idea we could use something like a video, right? We could put up a PDF on a SharePoint. We could have documentation available in a wiki. There's all sorts of different ways we can get to guide the user through it. But everything we were coming up with at first all happened after the user was done with the zero touch. And the goal for this mission was all about making it part of the zero touch workflow. How do we help the user get their computer set up and ready to go? And once all is said and done, we don't have to worry about it anymore. All right, so what if instead we make step 3, guide the user through the process? And we can use a tool like either DEPNotify, which we've been using for a long time now with our zero touch workflows, or SwiftDialogue, which we are migrating toward. All right, so excuse me for 1 second while I turn one potential thing on. So if I wanted to be able to guide the user through it, using everything that I found in those settings earlier, and don't worry if you can't read this entirely on this screen, 2 things to note. As usual, I will be putting together, I have this all written up as a blog post, which will appear on our blog soon. As you saw, we've just been overhauling the webpage, so I didn't have a chance to beat that to the punch. But also I'm about to go over the individual sections. So the first part at the very top, I just wanted to show about how this function is used. And I have up at the very, wait, I need to go back a slide. Yeah. So the way this can be called is by saying, all right, mic check equals, and the function is simply called check access, pass it the application and which service. And then it will send back either the word on or off. Now, after you've checked those 2 inputs, it's either looking for screen, because at first I couldn't remember if I was looking for screen sharing, screen settings. So I'm just saying if it starts with screen, that's the one. And then that's the only one of the 3 that we are using the computer level one. The other 2, microphone and camera, we are using the user level. And I thought of that myself when I put this slide together. And then next is a matter of just finding, okay, client, service, and auth value. So now I have the pieces I want. And then just the next section down saying, all right, if the last word in there, if the last character is a 0, it's off. If it's a 1, it's on. And then send that back for the user, or for the script to be able to use. Now, I'm going to switch for one in a moment. I'm just going to get something ready in the background. That's great. So we've got a function. We can now start dropping this function, and this will be, again, available for you to use in whatever your workflows are. But of course, once we started getting this implemented, we wanted to be able to share the entire workflows, not just that piece of it. But if our workflow is like 90% of what you want, but you want to do it a little bit better, great. That function is going to be your head start. So the next thing I wanted to show not quite where I needed it. I'm going to do a little adjustment. It is always recommended that you reboot right before doing a presentation, so you don't accidentally break something. But now look what I've done. I managed to break something. I broke something even worse. Now, does that reset it? No. I appreciate your patience, but I'd rather make this right. Now we'll move it over and uncrop this side. There we go. That's what it should have looked like. So this is, I just wanted to just give a little closer look at the function. Again, it takes in the 2 parameters. This is the slide I think got cropped out. Asks for the application and the service. But I ended up coming up with 2 different workflows. The first one that we came up with was the idea of doing this all in series. Start at the top and work your way through to the bottom. Start, just say first turn on the microphone, turn on the camera, turn on screen sharing. And this was a good workflow for the tools that we've already been using, like DEPNotify, right? Everything done. If you use DEPNotify, then you know it goes step, step, step. In fact, let me try jumping back. I had a couple of demo. It was almost impossible. I have 3 screens and there's not enough screen real estate to put everything I needed, like DEPNotify, system preferences, and everything all in one place. So I ended up doing a couple of videos and they ate themselves. So here's an example of this next script, and I'll go back to the script so you can see it in a moment. It's sitting there and saying, great, we need to access Teams, and it goes through camera and so on. And I just wanted to show through here. So here's my function at the top. Right now I've got hard coded into this particular demo, just that I'm looking for the word Teams. Checks to make sure that DEPNotify is running. If it isn't, go ahead and start it. And then after setting my title and text, I just have 3 little paragraphs here. While check access is reporting that it's off, wait, every 3 seconds, check again. And that's how I was able to get to the concept of having it saying enable camera, and it's just sitting there and pulsing until somebody comes in and flicks the switch, waiting for that. And this works great. Now, if the user had, when they opened it, and by the way, the demo also would open system preferences for them. So it opens up system preferences, bringing them right to the privacy pane, nice and easy. All they have to do is click on camera because it says enable camera. But what if they click on microphone because they saw it first and they turn that on? Well, it's still waiting on enable camera. And then they finally get back to the camera, they turn on camera, and then suddenly it jumps to screen sharing. It doesn't go to enable microphone because they already enabled microphone. And okay, that's fine, but it's no longer that guided access that we were looking for. It's not that tour that we were hoping to provide. And I should also point out, the nice thing about using DEPNotify for something like this is that we can easily turn around and create a nice simple video showing them how to do this. I say we can easily create a video, but I was joking about the music video. I hope you knew that. Chris can easily create a video. I can write text on a screen and I can write code. That's about it. Chris was able to put together a video that showed cleanly, here's how you go and turn this on, and just have it playing in a loop until they do. And every 3 seconds check and then move on. But what if we wanted to use something like SwiftDialogue? SwiftDialogue has some capabilities that DEPNotify doesn't. You can use lists like you see here on the screen, and these can be done. It's just constantly checking for any updates, but I can update these 3 in any order I want. So this is kind of neat. It doesn't, unfortunately, as of right now, and by the way, I have a feature request in. If you go to the SwiftDialogue GitHub page, then you'll be able to see that I put in an issue, and very happy to see that MM2270 upvoted it. But the idea of adding to be able to add videos and live content to a running SwiftDialogue like DEPNotify does, I think it's in moving, but the more people that go in and give it a nudge, hopefully will help. But let me show you a little bit what this code looks like, because we didn't want to make sure that we could do it without the user having to do it in order. So this script, same minus accidentally cutting off the word function, same function goes through, and again, I've got my name in here, and I'm just specifying as an array what 3 things I'm keeping an eye on for. Prepping my launch of SwiftDialogue. But now remember, I had those 3 paragraphs, step 1, step 2, step 3. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm doing a loop. And I'm assuming at the beginning of the loop that no, we're not done. But every time we're through, as long as it's done, for a moment, assume that it is done. Then go through each one of the monitors, keyboard, microphone, and screen sharing. Use the check access to see if Teams has access to that monitor. If it's on, then change the state to success and say done. Oh, excuse me. If it is, say state is success. If not, say done is no. So that overrides this done and means that when the loop ends, it's going to go back to the top of the loop. But it also takes a moment to set this state to success. So then dialog sends, okay, update this particular item, which you saw here, enable microphone, now has a little checkbox by it. And what's fun and what I really wanted to be able to demonstrate for you, again, I wasn't able to make it work, but I think Chris and Hugo got a kick out of it in my live demo when we tried to implement this a while back, was that I could sit there and turn, as long as I didn't turn all three on, I could have any two turned on and have things going check from the green checkbox back to the dots. The nice thing about this loop, and it's just this long of code, as long as the user has something to do, it will wait for them. Now, in the production version of it, there's a countdown timer. After a minute, the script gets bored and moves on. But in using this, and I will go back to my slides, I can just keep an eye on where they're at in the process, and I can guide them through. And again, I would have to be using some sort of video. I'd have to do a different pop-up system with this one. And this is ultimately why we didn't go this route. Chris's video was so ridiculously clear. That idea of a picture is worth 1,000 words. Video's got to be worth millions, because there's no way I could have put the text to guide the user through this and give that experience, that zero-touch experience that we wanted. But ultimately, once they'd finished clicking all the particular items, then yeah, we had it done. And as part of our zero-touch workflow, we had guided the user through. In fact, I'm going to give myself 2 checkboxes for this one, because I did it with both DEPNotify and SwiftDialogue. In fact, you know what? This was so successful in my mind. Why don't we just say, I got to give myself credit for this one. Come on. Oh, okay. I accidentally deleted the slide that had a nice drop-down mission accomplished stamp. I am stepping on all of my own jokes. Instead of telling you really good jokes and making music videos, I'm providing you with functional content. What kind of presenter am I? So this was our mission. This is our goal, to be able to make sure that as part of a zero-touch workflow, from the moment the user took the computer out of the box, they're in control of it. They're being given everything that they need to get their computer set up and ready to go. And then once they're done with all of that, they're ready. So this has been my, again, I'm sorry I couldn't give you the music video. The Beagles were very sad. They were totally uncooperative. They were such divas, if you know anything about Beagles. But with that, I'm going to remove Spotlight and see if there are any. I haven't seen any questions pop up, but if there are anything, feel free to either come off mute and let me know.